brought to you in living color on NBC. Appearing with Jack tonight are Alexander King, Helen O'Connell, Bill Cosby, Criswell Predicts, and Jose Mellis. Here's Jack.
I wish he hadn't mentioned my name. I wanted it to come as a surprise. I got to level with you and tell you something tonight. If I talk peculiarly or less coherent than usual, it's because I had the funniest, it's been one of those days. An actor, if you have a little tooth that's crooked, they straighten it, well, actually, they put a porcelain jacket on it. It's called a cap. And I have a crooked tooth, so they put it on, and you grind your tooth down to the size of a match, and then they shove this porcelain jacket on. It stays on for life, you know, and except if an infection breaks out, there's nothing they can do. Not the day of a show. They can't take it off. It's with a chisel they take it off. So they went up behind here this morning and took the nerve out. And they don't give you Novocaine, they say, when they do that, because they want to know when they reach the nerve. And so I sat there for 2 hours with, you know, the white knuckle flight, you know, like this, and I let him know when he reached the nerve. I tapped him on the shoulder with my foot, and I said, "Sir, you have reached the nerve." Oh, it was so painful. So anyhow, it's a little strange. And we don't have any sponsors, you know, for that kind of thing, because I take everything that we have. We have the best sponsors. I mean, the Spidell's not going to help me much with this, you know, and Hertz Rent-A-Car, the Alka-Seltzer, that helped a little. But our sponsors are the best. I have personally investigated every single sponsor on this show and found that they had enough money to pay us, and so there's no question. I'm a worrier. This show is doing very well, thanks to you, but we follow the darndest shows. Last year we followed a show called Don't Call Me Charlie, which was most unusual. And this year we have another one called Harry's Girls. And these perfectly charming young performers, and Larry Blyden's so talented, but the scripts have been so strange. And I'm a little concerned because I have to follow this show. So I offered to write a script for them. In the opening scene, Harry strangles the three little broads right off the bat. Then he commits suicide here at NBC but first he puts poison in the executive water cooler. And everybody here's wiped out but Perry Como and me. Hope, no, we say Bob Hope. Hope's going to do, we have to have him to entertain the troops at Christmas time. And this year he's going to entertain the troops in Alabama, I think is where they're going to go. You know, Joey Bishop once said that Hope, he loves to entertain the troops. This is his great, wonderful contribution. But one year they didn't have any troops out, so they went to Camp Dix and they canceled all of the Christmas leave passes for all of the troops and said, "I'm sorry you can't go home. We're sending you to Alaska." And they said, "Well, why?" He said, "Well, Hope wants to entertain you," so they sent the Hope. Anyhow, I finally found out who that giant in the washing machine is. You know the clown with his hand sticking out? It's Mickey Rooney. We found out today. You know, if a foreigner ever came to this country, he'd get the wrong impression of us by watching television. He would, for instance, you'd think that we all had dirty sinks and that we kept a guy locked up in a washing machine. You know, from Bess Meyerson to Molly Goldberg with Soap It's Loaded. Whenever I see it, I think of my aunt. I had an aunt who was a great cook, but she wasn't always loaded, but she was a little incoherent around 6, I must say that. You know, we all have one in every family. And you should see her toss the salad. That was really something. Or the soup sometimes. It was quite interesting. How television has changed all of our lives. A lady called a doctor the other night around 11 o'clock, and she said, "Doctor, I think I have chronic endemic mononucleosis." And he says, "I think you do too, because I saw the same program." since the success of Hazel, our maid and dear housekeeper has been coming on a little stronger around the house, you know, doing jokes at dinner and everything, answering the phone with funny voices. And game shows, people now come to your house and they want to guess the retail price of your furniture. Kids no longer play cops and robbers or cowboys and Indians. They play defenders and corruptors, good guys and brand X. Kid was selling a magazine the other day, and he must have watched Elliot Ness, and he came around. I said, I don't want new magazines. And the kid says, here's my card. If you change your mind, call me. Let's try for 2 out of 3. Shall we do that? Or... No, wait. I tell you what, the true stories are always the best. This is true. Perry Mason, played by Raymond Burr, in the last 5 years has never lost, to my knowledge, a court case in the series. This is true. However, about a month ago, in an action against Raymond Burr, he waived counsel and defended himself in court. Did you read this? Well, it's true. And he lost. Now, he not only lost, but the judge gave him hell for clowning around. He said, come on, what do you know? But wouldn't it be awful if everyone began to believe, you know, their parts? You have an auto accident, and you're lying in the street, and a crowd forms, and you hear a guy say, let me through, I can handle this. And you look up, and it's Richard Chamberlain. And how television, the names have caught on. For instance, in Long Island, there's a place where they have wrecked cars, smashed up highway cars, and it says, people are funny, a sign. In Hollywood, there's a sign of a health center, a nudist health center called Yogi Bear. Mrs. Joseph Kennedy could call the government my 3 sons. And my wife recently has been talking about getting a burial plot. You know, she thinks we ought to have a cemetery. I wasn't really planning to go. And I thought when my time came, I was going to hang on to the Davenport anyhow for a couple of more months. But anyhow, she got this literature from this cemetery, and you know what it was called? Make Room for Daddy. You know, I thought that was... This program has never been what you might call a singer's program. I've always refused to get trapped into that old show business axiom, you got to open with a song, or the other equally boring idea of opening with acrobats. The most acrobatic thing you'll ever see here, once in a while I'll pull my socks up, something like that. But that's not the point. When we do bring you a singer, he or she is always one of the best. And since actions speak louder than words, here is Miss Helen O'Connor.
Tree of life, I just picked me a plum. You came along and everything started to hum. Still, it's a real good bet. The best is yet to come. The best is yet to come, and babe, won't it be fine? You think you've seen the sun, but you ain't seen it shine. Wait till the warm-up's underway. Wait till our lips have met. Wait till you see that sunshine day. You ain't seen nothing yet. The best is yet to come, and babe, won't it be fine? The best is yet to come, come the day you're mine. Come the day you're mine. I'm gonna teach you to fly. We've only tasted the wine. We're gonna drink the cup dry. Wait till your charms are ripe for these arms to surround. You float before, but you ain't left the ground. Wait till you're locked in my embrace. Wait till I draw you near. Wait till you see that sunshine place. Ain't nothing like it here. The best is yet to come, and babe, won't it be fine? The best is yet to come. the tree of life I just picked me up from.
Alex King's experiences could fill books. They have, in fact, to the delight of both his public and his publishers. Alex is really a study in contradictions. At times, he sounds as though he had been taught the language by Shakespeare himself, and other times by Rocky Graziano. He looks like a beloved uncle whose shoes hurt. But for conversation, he's one of our wittiest guests, Mr. Alex King.
Thank you.
You have been on for so long you forgot your way out here, huh?
That's right. It's a maze that you go through like those mice, you know, who have passed tests in laboratory. But I made it.
People don't see as much on television. You're not on as much, but we're going to be on a lot this year together. Do they still recognize you?
Well, you know, this recognition is much a dubious gift, you might say, and it works out both ways. But the couple of times it was wonderful for me was one day, just before we went to the country, Margie went and bought me, there was a sale, you see, and she bought me an endless number of shorts, and they didn't fit. That's par for the course. So I took them back, and so had a lot of other people. So when I landed in this department store, there were endless numbers of husbands milling around from this counter. I had no chance at all. And at this point, the man behind the counter, who had just had a permanent wave, obviously, the way he was handling his head, recognized me. And he leaped like a gazelle across the counter and across these people and came up to me and gave me the right size. And I couldn't have been more surprised. He says, I can always tell what you need. So that was pleasant. Another time I stood under an awning. When it was pouring like crazy. I'd come out of a movie, raining like mad, no cabs, of course. Suddenly a cab pulls up right near me, and it's got 4 people in it, and the taxi driver says, Alex, what are you doing here? I said, I'm waiting for a cab. He said, get in. I said, you got? He said, get in. So my wife and I piled ourselves on top of these 4 people. And they were going out to Long Island someplace, but he took me home first, of course, to their delight. And of course, I tried to make myself as small as possible and say nothing. And the taxi driver went on talking, and he was gay. And then finally, we landed in front of our door. We'd taken these people completely out of their way. And we get up, and I try to pay, and he says, no, this one is on me. And I said, no, it's on me. And finally, the guy in the cab said, no, he was on us. Which was true.
You have anything to say about the pigeon problem in New York? I know you feel strongly about the pigeons here.
Well, I mean, after all, when I was a younger man and had a lot of energy, we used to go around and clean up the statues that the pigeons had ruined. I mean, just Edgar Allan Poe, Father Duffy, the people we liked. Because the pigeons are notoriously indiscriminating in their criticism. And of course, the minute you say the pigeons have got to go, 10 million people get up and scream, what? We are lost without pigeons, you know? These are people, of course, who, if they were assassinating children, would never lift an eyebrow, you know? But their heart bleeds for every cockroach and every pigeon, you know?
How could they get rid of the pigeons? I mean, you have a reverence for life, as I do. How could it humanely be done?
Well, there are some things that can't be done humanely, and you might as well face it. I mean, as you just know, you can't be humane and have all those pigeons around New York that ruin your life.
It's a big drive on to tell people on the network to get the pigeons out of here. There's a marvelous story that happened in Waikiki. H. Allen Smith told me this. There's a hotel there, the Royal Hawaiian, and outside of it, in the courtyard, is a huge banyan tree. That tree is as large as this entire studio. Big. Hundreds of minor birds would come, Alex, and sit there at night, and then all night long chatter, and they were driving people out of the hotel. And so they called experts, and they used stuff to kind of burn their feet and fly away. They used smoke. They used rattling tins. They had tins. Well, nothing worked. And finally, they brought a man from the mainland over, and he was an expert with this. So he devised a way of taking all the branches and putting them down this way on a rope and putting stakes in the ground, all of them. Then when the birds would come, he would run around with a knife and cut the ropes, sending these hundreds of myna birds up into the air. But you know what happened? The myna birds loved it. They went around to all the Hawaiian Islands and said, come on, there's a ball going over the road. So it didn't work out. No. You know, your greatest fans, I believe, are women. You have a great... well, you've had many women in your life. You've had what we call a full life. Haven't you?
Yes, frankly. But, well, I mean, at my age, what's the use of being modest? It's idiotic. But I wasn't always so hip. You know, when I was a young man, you'd be surprised how square I was.
We all were, you know, at the beginning.
But you wouldn't expect it of me. When I was going on 17, I took a summer job on something called the Aluminum Conference, which is an organization that sold aluminum pots from door to door. The conference took place between you and the housewives who didn't want anything. But nevertheless, I thought, well, I'll get the job. And then I was always trying to make an honest living, you know. It just didn't work for me. But anyway, so there was a course that was given. They taught you how to sell and overcome sales resistance. And the man who demonstrated how this was to be done was one of the most hideous men I've ever seen in my life. He had one of those eyeglasses that pinch your nose, you know. When he took those eyeglasses over, his whole face fell down. And also, when he shaved, some kind of mole fuzz remained permanently on his face. He was always blue, you know. When he smiled, it looked like he was eating gorgonzola cheese, you know, and those were his teeth. Anyway, this monstrous man was the housewife, and he was showing, well, anyway. And I had a funny visceral intuition. Visceral intuition means I had a hunch in my guts that this was not a career for me, but I went anyway. So I got the silk stocking district here in New York. I didn't get the Bronx or Brooklyn. I got a real nice, snazzy neighborhood. And, of course, you had to carry, and there was a pressure cooker, too. This stuff weighed a ton. I checked half the pots in Grand Central and took 2 pots, you know. But we also had to demonstrate how well this cooks, and I had 6 veal cutlets along with me to demonstrate the greatness of these pots, you see. So I arrive at the door, and a woman, a rather attractive young woman in a wrapper, comes to the door. Also, before we started out, he told us that we should make for the customers a kind of diagram. We make 2 pillars, you know, and this was value, service, and satisfaction. We had to make this drawing for our customers. Some mastermind who never finished 3rd grade decided on this attack. So I stood out in the hall dying to make this drawing for this woman, you know, who felt sorry for me. And having probably a moment to spare, she let me into the house, which was a mistake. And I got in, and I took out my pad, and I said, value, service, satisfaction. And she said, what is it you want? I said, we have the greatest pots. And I unpacked this, and I get out this pressure cooker and the veal cutlet. And this young woman, in her own sweet way, it turned out to be a divorcee who was living there with her girlfriend, and not much cooking went on, as she said. But nevertheless, I was in there. And now listen to this piece of insanity, because you say only the true things are funny. Listen to this. Nobody would write such a piece of madness. Here was this attractive girl in a wrapper, and I don't know how many... You can't imagine how much money men had spent to be alone with her in a nightclub. And I was alone with her in her apartment. And I had my mind on veal cutlets. So, she sympathized with my youth, you know, like most women do, and she felt a schlemiel, you know, is on the way. So she finally sat down, and I was, of course, busy explaining about the service and the value and the other nonsense. And finally, you know, I said, call in your neighbors. Because I was supposed to do it for a whole committee, you see. She said, now she lost all faith in me, of course. She said, call in the neighbors. I said, yes. She drummed up a couple of more women who came in and sat around. And I had, of course, with the veal cutlets, and I screwed on the pot and everything else, and I was perspired and miserable. And I said, may I wash up? And I went to the bathroom. As I'm in the bathroom, I hear a terrific explosion. I come out of the bathroom, and the cover to this pressure cooker was embedded in the ceiling. these women sit around and look at me. And I was just in me. And the woman says, that's all right, I plan to put a chandelier. And she was being helpful. And I grabbed my nonsense together, defeated, lost, finished. And I even shook hands with everybody, like a real idiot. After such a performance.
And that was your first?
No, the beauty of it was I went to the door, she ran after me with a pad. And she said, give me that. And she took the pad away from me, and with a pencil, she crossed out satisfaction on top.
Well, I think I'll pass up my first affair. I don't think I'm going to go into mine. I was always in love with an older woman, a teacher or something. I was always trying to do.
You have to begin
Hey, did you see Elizabeth Taylor's London? I didn't get to see it that night.
Oh, yes.
You would tell me about
yes,
it.
I saw it. And you know what is so fascinating? Now, this girl was once very attractive. Nobody can deny that, you know. I think she's still quite attractive. But she uses enough makeup to look as if she were embalmed. And you know what is so tragic to me is that the girls in this country, you know, are so well made up and look so right until somebody gives them a bum steer. Now, Mrs. Kennedy, who is a very attractive, tall lady, decided on a beehive hairdo, which, if you're nearly 6 feet tall, is fine. But little girls tottering around on spindly little legs, you know, looking like animated clothespins, have a hair thing like this. They look absolutely insane. They look like they're having brain fever. Now, because Elizabeth, you know, and Elizabeth Taylor on this program, you know, she quoted large sections of great poetry of Shakespeare, and this came out of a mummy's mouth, you know, because there were these two dead eyes, that dead face, and some anti-feminine monster had designed clothes for her, you see. And her neck stood out of this turtle arrangement, and she went bap, 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 bap.
I gather you liked the show.
I adored it. I knew you did.
I'll tell you, only the French, the Parisian girls, and the Roman girls, at least, can wear eye makeup and not look like they ran into an oval doorknob.
They look just as bad, only we don't care about them.
Well, no, but the English girls just simply can't do it. They look like raccoons. The whole thing is wrong. If they'd ever cry, they'd dye their shoes. You know, they overdo that makeup thing. Boy, it's been good having you here. You coming back a lot?
Well, it depends, you know. I'm planning to go to Europe next spring, if I can.
Well, we're going to do a lot.
Spring.
We're going to do a lot between now and spring.
Oh, yes.
About 26 more shows. So we'll see you soon, huh?
I hope so. It's been great fun.
God love you.
Good night. Goodbye, dear friends.
There's a very funny Frenchman around American movie houses these days. His name is Pierre Atec, and he's currently starring in a full-length feature comedy that he himself wrote and directed called The Suitor. But earlier this year, Pierre Atec wrote, produced, and starred in a funny film called Happy Anniversary. It's a little short. It won a Hollywood Oscar last spring, and I thought you'd enjoy seeing this story of the problems of a French husband hurrying around Paris trying to buy some presents before going home to his wife to celebrate their wedding anniversary. It all begins as his wife finishes setting the festive table and patiently awaits his arrival. Watch.
Et dites donc, je crois qu'il va falloir une minute. J'arrive, voilà.
Veuillez agréer, messieurs, nos salutations distinguées.
Fais le tour, reviens. Fais le tour.
Oh, regarde-moi celui-là, quel crétin alors.
Je sais pas, au plus gêné, mais il est formidable alors celui-là. Non mais regarde-moi ça.
Allez, là,
Alors,
viens,
non mais tu
oui,
te rends compte. Oui, voilà.
Allez, vas-y mollo, pépère. La vaisselle, elle est dans le fond.
Formidable, c'est pas possible qu'on se transforme dans une voiture, mais qu'est-ce qu'il aurait dans la voiture?
Mais dommage, madame. Mais permettez-moi de vous dire que...
Gare du Nord.
Vite, vite. Oh, alors, qu'est-ce que c'est que celui-là, alors? Laissez-vous sortir de la voiture. De taxi,
Non, non, allons, regardez.
Ne t'occupez pas de ça. Qu'est-ce que c'est pas votre valise?
Qu'est-ce que je vais dire chez moi maintenant? Regardez un peu ce que vous avez fait.
Celui-ci?
Très bien.
That won the Oscar in '63 for the best foreign short. A few weeks ago, we brought you a new face, and behind the new face was a very funny man. Not an old hand in professional comedy, but Bill Cosby became what we call an overnight sensation. And so now, to prove talent can strike twice, here again is Bill Cosby. Right. You know, this handsome fella here was a Marine on the football team and also was a fullback at Temple University. For how many years were you?
About 80 years. As long as I stayed in the service, I try to keep from marching, you know, and send you out to play football.
How much of experience at Temple?
I played 2 years at Temple, and we've run into a snag there, and I left to go into show business. You know, it's one thing after another. I figure I was going to turn pro, but I figure it's easier to talk 18,000 than to get run over 18.
I would think so. What goes on in a locker room when they're...
Well, usually, Jack, coaches try to get a team up. They use different methods. Lately, the latest method is to play records. A coach will play a record of, like, the music that just came on. Fighting. Our coach went out and he bought the wrong record. He bought Exodus. We all got dressed and went home. But the big thing was, I'll never forget the classic speech that Gavin White gave to us on the freshman team. We played Gettysburg before the address. And all the guys were there, and they're just sitting around playing cards. You know, we really didn't mind too much about the game. And he said, now get up for the game. He said, I want you guys to get up for this. I want you to really get out there and try and win this game. Put the cards down. Stop playing the cards and listen to me when I tell you. And I said, what's wrong with the coach this time? He said, get up for the game now. So I'm tired of you guys going out there just playing nothing. You South people running all over you. And just get up for the game. Let me hear you say kill. And the guys, kill. Let me hear you say fight. Fight. Let me hear you say you want to win. We want to win. Queen goes on the jack. The jack goes on the queen. Get up for the game, I'm telling you. You want to win this game? Yeah, coach, you guys are jumping around, ripping the locker, tearing up paper, you know, smashing these. And if you're ready, then go get them. We ran and the door was locked. We just stood there, you know, playing some 3D.
How about the flipping the coin?
Well, I was sitting in history class. They make you go to class when you're in college, one of the hang-ups, you know. And I was thinking that since they have a flip of a coin before each football game, and you have a winner and you have a loser, suppose this would happen in history, say like the Revolutionary War and the war with the Indians and the cavalry. First is now a referee will come out and he'll introduce the two team captains on it. Captain officers, Captain soldiers, Captain soldiers, Captain officers, call the toss. They call heads. This tails, you lose the toss. What will you do, Captain? And this captain will do whatever's to his advantage. We will receive. We will receive. All right, this team here will receive. They will receive. What will these guys do? They will kick off. They will kick off. All right, this team here will kick off. You will kick off. So, what about the Revolutionary War? Suppose they had a referee then, before the war. Captain Harvard to the British, you're the visiting team. Is Captain Soldier to the settlers at home? Captain Soldier serves, Captain Officer the British there. The British call it toss, call it. He calls heads. It's tails, you lose the toss, the settlers win. What will you do, settlers? All right, the settlers say that they will wear any color clothes that they want to, shoot from behind the rocks, the trees, and everywhere. Says your team must wear red and march in a straight line. You could have like the war with the Indians and the cavalry, for instance. Worst call of all made by a guy in the cavalry, Custer.
Yeah.
Captain Custer, this is Captain Sitting Bull. Captain Sitting Bull is Captain Custer. Call the toss, Cuss. Call head. It's tails. You win the toss there, Sit. What will you do? All right, Captain Sitting Bull says, you and your boys got to wait down at the bottom of the hill while him and all the Indians in the world ride right down on you. I can't help it. And of course, you know, the Indians lost the most important toss, the one which cost them the country.
What was that?
And that's the toss that says that you must make a noise 5 feet from any man you're going to attack. Now, you've seen in the movies, like, the Indian's really quiet, he's sneaking around there, and then all 5 feet is out. Shot. Woo! Thanks a lot.
You were such a big hit here a couple weeks ago. Do that routine that we all know about that you have on karate.
All right. Why not?
Why not?
Why not? So I want to talk to you about karate. Mainly because of the fact that after you've graduated from a karate school, there's no better feeling in the world than when you're walking around knowing that you can wipe out your whole neighborhood. No, I mean, you become important, you know. People invite you out to parties, the hostess will look around and say, kill. Wipe out everything, man. Of course, the big thing about karate is the fact that you must condition your hands. And you have to do this by hammering away at a brick or a stick or something like that until your hand gets in shape. Wham, 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 until a big slab of callus forms at the side of your hand starts to look like a foot. Now, don't laugh. This is good because you keep your hand in your pocket for about 9 days, and if some guy attacks you, you take a swing at him, and even if you miss, the smell will kill him. Just stop with that. You know, right. And then what you do is after you get your hand in shape, then you can go around, break bricks, sticks, stuff like that. This is important because if you're ever walking down a dark street, some guy will put a gun in your back, so give me your dough. You turn around, break a brick, stick, then give him your money. Hey, I'll take it. Thanks a lot for the show. Do you dance? No, I don't. But after you do all that, you ever see a karate expert commit suicide? And a good friend of mine is a real authority on the whole thing. He said, now listen, Cosby, he said, what you have to do is, he said, you have to just use mind over matter. He brought out this brick. He said, I will smash this brick to smithereens. Raised his arm, he came, shattered it to pieces there, brought out another. He's got to use mind over matter. So I am thinking through this brick. I will smash this brick to smithereens. Raised his hand, came down. Unfortunately, this brick was thinking, no, you won't either. And shattered his whole elbow. And now he only picks on things like Jell-O and whipped cream, you know. He still demonstrates fries, but he's nothing anymore. It's terrible. Big thing about it also is the shout. Now, in order to break a brick or anything, you must give off a shout. This causes your glands to secrete your froth at the mouth. You become strong. If you miss it, you can bite him. You know, it makes it important. But I figured out why, but the guy will break a brick with his foot. I said, why bother to do all this breaking in it if I know the shout? Because I went home and I practiced the shout. Because I figure, if a guy's going to hold me up, where is he? Down a dark street. Why? Because he's nervous. He doesn't want any trouble. All he wants is my dough. Here I come down a dark street. Why? Because I'm stupid. But I know the shout. And I go walking down the street, and the guy will put a gun in my back and says, give me your dough. I just turn around quick. So here, take the gun. What the hell's wrong with you? Some kind of nut or something? If you don't watch yourself, I'll shout again. As a matter of fact, you give me your dough. I held up 18 guys like that last year. I read the back of a magazine which had a very nice move in it. It says that if you're ever walking down a dark street, for you guys to keep money in your front pocket, go into your front pocket, the guy's behind you, puts a gun in your back, says, give me your dough. Go in, grab your dough, tighten up on your elbow, you whip around hard and fast, catch the guy right up in the forehead. This knocks him back. Grab it, throw it over your shoulder, pick up the gun, march him right off to jail. Now this is a good move. And I went home and I practiced this on my uncle, and I killed him. I got so good I would walk down nothing but dark streets with $10 bills hanging out of my pocket. And it happened. Give me your dough. What? Turn around, it was a midget. What are you up there, some kind of a song and dance man or something? Give me that dough before I blow your kneecap off. Fine. But I want to give you this one little message for those of you that are interested in karate and you want to graduate from the school. And when you've graduated from the school, you have not achieved the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to get attacked. Therefore, you must practice walking around looking passive. You must walk passive, look passive. Somebody will pick on you. Ah, look at that guy looking weird over there. Just keep. Stay passive, be passive. When he comes over to strike, you grab both lapels of his jacket, drive your forehead through his. Come around with both hands, quickly drive them down across the shoulders, breaking all of the bones in the shoulders and the rib cage. You come up, you drive your hand up into his neck, push his chin bone up to the head, swipe off the top of his head, put it in upside down, you put him up into a ball, you throw him down, and you jump on him, and then you bash him against the wall, and then you walk away passively. This is important.
Some of the strangest things happen in Southern California. I lived there for about 9 years, and I liked it very much. But it's Mecca for all faddists and eccentrics, cultists, strange religions. It's a real nut area. I can recall the cemetery there, which actually has a big billboard which says "Foreverness," which was always a shock. I expect to see someone with a sign someday saying "Underneathness," you know. On Sunset Strip, I remember in my first year there was this mixture of signs. This sign was true. It said spiritualist, judo lessons, and mimeographing. I always thought that was a kind of weird combination. Well, anyhow, there's a fella out there called Criswell. Criswell predicts, and he has his own television show, and his predictions are taken quite seriously by his followers out there. And he's lots of fun to have on the show, so we flew him in, and here is Criswell Predicts.
Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives, whether you like it or not.
You go along with that, do you? Now, let's go. First of all, what is your accuracy? Because I try to keep track of it, but I remember one time, you remember when I was leaving the Tonight Show, you said, you announced as a prediction who was going to replace me.
Yes, I did.
You were wrong, you know.
I was wrong with that. But I have a prediction a little later in the program that might clear that one up.
Oh, I see. Well, what? I don't even understand the explanation of this here. Now, what is your rate of accuracy?
My rate of accuracy is around 87%.
That's pretty good.
And because I predict through trend, precedent, pattern of habit, human behavior, and the unalterable law of cycle.
Well, there's nothing spooky about it.
Nothing spooky at all.
Just good common sense.
Good common sense. We analyze completely because you can only analyze because you remain impersonal all the time toward any item or any object or any problem.
All right. Well, do you want to start predicting?
Yes. My first prediction tonight concerns Margaret Chase Smith. Now, I predict that Margaret Chase Smith, the senator from Maine, will be the first woman ever nominated for the vice presidency of the United States. And this will be on the Republican ticket, and I predict that she will run with Barry Goldwater in 1964. I further predict that Governor Pat Brown of California will be the Democratic candidate for Vice President in 1964.
And I predict you're going to hear from Lyndon Johnson in the morning.
I predict invisible insects in Indiana. They are tiny mice that are actually in the air. You can hardly see them at all. They come inside during the cold weather. They almost infest the woodwork. They are almost like insects we have in California called termites.
I see. And where are they going to come now?
In the state of Indiana.
Indiana, all right.
And they get under the skin, and they sometimes cause a fever. And it does cause a breaking out and a great discomfort, and a stomach upset, too, can sometimes be caused by these invisible
You
insects.
did predict once bed bugs in Boston. Did that come true? Listen, if you're going to laugh, you're not going to learn anything.
I certainly did. That was the time they tore down the entire harbor there.
You were right about that.
Yes.
How about rattlesnakes in Phoenix?
Rattlesnakes in Phoenix, that was every 7 years. They never saw so many rattlesnakes in all their lives as they had in Phoenix. Now,
that part's
Vincent Price can tell you about that because he was there.
Vincent Price, what is he in? Vincent Price.
Vincent Price.
See, he's not an authority that you go to.
No, but he lives in Phoenix.
Mice in Minneapolis, how'd that work out?
Mice in Minneapolis, when they built the new freeway, all the mice and roaches and rats came right from the old part of town right into the new section of town, and they haven't gotten rid of some of them yet out in Minneapolis.
Yeah, you see? Now, that's all prediction. Now, what else you got there?
I predict that the new style for men's hairstyles, will return to the George Washington look.
You've started already there.
And I predict that the new...
It's like lemon meringue, doesn't it? I wish I had that much hair on top. Go ahead.
I also predict that the new hairsprays for men will be a spray that will actually glow in the dark. It has a phosphorus base, and it is now the rage and will be the rage very, very soon
Vincent Price?
throughout America. Not Vincent Price. Go ahead. And here's a very special prediction. I predict that Khrushchev will become a father before the end of the year.
You see what a little wheat will do?
I predict, and here's my latest prediction on the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. I predict that the Duke and Duchess of Windsor will be asked to replace Jerry Lewis in his television program within the next fortnight.
All right, go ahead. You're hot, I see.
And I predict that you will outlive every doctor you know or have ever met by at least 10 years.
The next person I hope to meet is a young doctor, then.
And as a result of space...
Or a new writer.
And I predict as a result of space influence, there will be no more cans. Everything will become packaged in tubes.
Oh, I see.
Everything in tubes.
Except toothpaste, which will come in cans. Let's get to the bigger name.
All right. I predict that Eddie Fisher will go back to Elizabeth Taylor, and, of course, Richard Burton will go back to Sybil.
That's good news for sport lovers everywhere.
And I predict a one-shot serum that will cure everything.
Where will they give it to you?
In the doctor's office.
I predict you may have trouble cashing your check. What I like about Criswell is you can kid and have such fun. And what's the percentage again?
87%.
Well, that's better than mine. That's better than mine. Good night, old friend.
And I hope everyone's made a list of it. Oh, and I hope they check it off.
Oh, I'm checking the whole thing off because I'm not paying this kind of money for nonsense. Our
thanks to Alexander King, Helen O'Connell, Bill Cosby, and Criswell Predicts for the show this evening. Next week, Kate Smith and Sam Levinson, and some interesting pictures, I trust, that I took in the South Pacific last summer. A week following, Johnny Winters with Alice and Phil. And here we have Lee Baracci and Milt Kamen and Jaja and Alan Funt. I hope that you'll all tune in again next week at the same time to see me say good night again. Good night.